A king invites a stranger to dinner and serves him the one thing a god would never eat: human flesh. The punishment isn't a lightning bolt, it's a curse. Teeth lengthen, bones grind and twist. A howl tears the night. This is the story of Lycaon, the king who became the first werewolf, and the long shadow his myth cast across centuries of fear, trials, and science. Lycanthropy. The word fuses two Greek roots: Lycos, wolf, and anthropos, human. Myth gave it a face. Language gave it a name. But the question underneath is older than both. What happens when someone crosses a boundary they were never meant to cross? In the highlands of Arcadia, Greece kept a rumor that on Mount Lycaon something sacred and savage lived side by side. There, a king named Lycaon ruled with brilliance sharpened into arrogance. When Zeus, disguised as a traveler, arrived at his court, Lycaon decided to test him. If this guest was truly a god, he would know. If not, the king would win a private victory over a pretender he had humiliated. Lycaon ordered a dish that broke the bones of decency. Some versions say it was the flesh of a murdered captive. Others, darker still, say it was a piece of his own son. The hall was bright with torches. Laughter rose as the plate was carried in like a trophy, and then the room fell quiet. Zeus did not taste. He knew. What followed wasn't a lesson, it was a revelation. The torches leapt like lightning. The rafters shook like trees in a storm. Lycaon ran. But you do not outrun a god. Death would have been mercy. Instead, Zeus turned the king inside out until his body matched his heart. Hair erupted from skin, fingers clenched into claws, the human voice collapsed into a growl. What Lycaon had always been in secret, he became openly. He bounded from the palace and vanished into the night, the first werewolf written into human memory. Some tellings add a cruel arithmetic to the curse: 9 or 10 years of exile. If the wolf resisted human flesh for the full term, the man might return. Other versions say the stain spread to his bloodline. Still others say Arcadia itself grew thin in places, and that certain rites on Mount Lycaon could peel a man's face back to show the animal beneath. Whatever the variation, the warning stands: profane the sacred, and you become what your appetite has already chosen. The details of the mountain matter. In Arcadia, Zeus wore an epithet, Lycaios, of the wolf. The sanctuary stood high and harsh, a place where clouds met stone. Ancient writers whispered about rites they barely understood. Was there human sacrifice? Was the tale a smear from enemies? The truth is tangled. What we can say is this: people felt that the boundary up there, between God and man, law and hunger, was thin. And stories grow where boundaries are thin. Stories travel. Lycaon's myth crossed seas and centuries and put down roots far from Greece. In medieval Europe, courts assembled and judges listened while men confessed, some willing, some broken, to roaming as wolves by night. Villages learned a language of fear. Sheep gone missing, a child who never made it home, prints in wet soil too large to trust. The pattern repeated until it felt like a ritual: isolation at the edge of town, hunger that grew a personality, moonlight that made every shadow taller than its owner. Names survived the paper: a woodsman in France whose crime sounded like hunger with fangs, a farmer in Germany whose neighbors turned into jurors before they ever reached a courtroom. Whether they were monsters, murderers, or scapegoats, their stories traced a cultural line, a border between the safe center and the dangerous edges. The forest became not just a place, but a verdict. Further north, sagas told of warriors who put on the storm like a cloak, berserkers and wolf-coated fighters whose rage was a weapon. Not werewolves in the strict sense, but close enough to fog the boundary. The idea tightened. A person could step into an animal's force and wear it like a second skin, whether by curse, by ritual, or by a choice made in the worst moment. Now take a breath and scan the world. A quick pass, not a tour, to see how the pattern echoes. France, 1764-1767, the Beast of Gévaudan. A string of killings in the countryside. Wolf, wolves, or something stranger? Hunters, panic, royal attention. Whatever the culprit, the story hardened into a template. A predator given a name, a region given a fear, a nation given a legend. Germany, 1589, Peter Stump of Bedburg. A confession under torture, a litany of crimes, a belt of wolfskin said to grant transformation. Whether myth layered over murder or hysteria weaponized, the tale stamped werewolf into the legal record. Livonia, 1692, Thies of Kaltenbrunn. An old man declares in court that he is a werewolf, but a good one, fighting witches in hell to protect the harvest. The world makes room for a paradox, the wolf as guardian, not villain. United States, late 20th century, the beast of Bray Road. Roadside sightings in Wisconsin. Tall, upright, wrong. Is it a misread of a big dog, a bear, a prank, or just the American version of an old European reflex? Fear finding a shape it already knows? Brazil, various. The lobosimum, a shapeshifter folded into local belief. Rules differ, costumes change, but the choreography is familiar. A boundary crossed, a community warned, a night made heavier by what might be in it. That's enough. Any longer and the world tour becomes the show. The point is simpler. Across cultures, when people feel a line is being crossed between safety and danger, order and appetite, something with teeth steps onto the stage. Modern language builds a clinical shelf for some of this. Clinical lycanthropy describes rare cases where someone believes they are a wolf. Doctors point to rabies and ergot poisoning in older outbreaks, to starvation and exile as tinder for the mind. Science notes that the moon's pull is mighty on tides and negligible on blood. And yet the calendar of fear still circles certain nights in ink. The full moon may not change us, but the story of the full moon does. The brain likes patterns. Give it a dark forest and a missing shape and it will fill the gap with a predator it already knows. Give it a rumor and a long winter and it will build a case. Sometimes the explanation is as ordinary as misidentification at distance or a hoax that got out of hand. Sometimes it's a violent person in a place with too little law. And sometimes it's the collective stress of a community turned into a creature it can hunt. Even so, the myth endures because it speaks to something more stubborn than fact. The fear that the beast is not out there but in here, that a single choice can let it out. That's the heart of Lycaon's story. The punishment was transformation, but the crime was appetite dressed as a test. He didn't become something new. He became something true. There's a hard mercy buried in some versions of the myth, the exile clock. If the wolf could refuse human flesh for a set number of years, the man might return. Translate that into plain terms, and you get a discipline that sounds like a prison at first and a door later. What we feed grows, what we starve fades. If a curse can be invited, maybe it can be resisted. Look again at the ingredients that make werewolf tales bloom. Edge places, weak law, hunger, long nights. A border village near a forest. A famine year. An isolated person whose habits make others nervous. Add a moon that's bright enough to blame. Add an accusation that feels like safety to the accuser. Soon there's a name, a pattern, a hunt. Whether the target is a predator or a person, the story runs the same loop. So what are werewolves for? They mark boundaries. Between sacred and profane. Between law and appetite. Between the self we claim in daylight and the self that whispers at 3 in the morning when no one is watching. Every culture draws a line, and every culture tells a story about what happens when you cross it. Lycaon isn't just a king in a poem. He's a mirror. He asks, who are you when no one can call you to account? What would you serve up to prove a point? How far would you go to keep your pride intact? In that sense, the myth is less about wolves than about humans pretending they are above consequence. Wolves, for their part, are busy being wolves, complex, social, essential to their ecosystems. The monster we fear isn't the animal, it's a human appetite that refuses limits. Lycaon's howl is the sound of consequences catching up. And the moon? It will keep climbing the sky. Its light is constant, its meanings are ours. People will keep drawing lines and stepping over them. What changes is how honest we're willing to be about the step, whether we call it a test, a joke, a hunger, or what it really is. a choice made against the better part of ourselves. Back in Arcadia, the mountain stands and the altar stones weather in the wind. The old stories loosen, but the recipe remains. Violate the guest, desecrate the sacred, pretend you can keep your hands clean. You cannot. Something will come to collect. In the Greek telling, that something wore the face of a god. In ours, it's usually slower, the steady reshaping of a life by the habits it defends. If you still want to hear a howl, you will. Some nights it comes from a distant ridge. Some nights it comes from your own chest, where rage waits like a tool you pretend you're not reaching for. The myth doesn't demand belief in monsters. It asks for responsibility. It asks you to choose which part of you takes the next step. From a cursed banquet hall to courtrooms and clinic notes, the werewolf keeps pace with us. Maybe that's why the story refuses to die. It knows our rhythm. When we move toward arrogance, it moves with us. When we move toward restraint, it lingers at the tree line and watches. Patient as a hunter, patient as a lesson. If you want a deeper dive next, into the medieval trials, the medical cases, or one of those landmark legends, say the word. Until then, walk boundaries with respect. Some lines aren't meant to be tested. Some guests aren't meant to be fooled. And some nights, if you listen hard enough, you'll hear what Lycaon heard as he ran. Not thunder, but the sound of a life-changing shape, one choice at a time.